Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to the qualifying watch-along for the 2018 Russian Grand Prix. And how are we doing, guys, for qualifying today in Sochi? Are we doing well? Do we think today is going to be an exciting qualifying session, or do you think it will be quite one-sided maybe to one team rather than the other? Hopefully you guys are doing well. And, well, we'll just get straight into this qualifying watch-along and the build-up to qualifying for the Russian Grand Prix. First, if you missed the practice 3 results for the 2018 Russian Grand Prix, let me take you through them right now. Here is the top 10. Lewis Hamilton fastest of all from Valtteri Bottas second, Vettel third, Raikkonen fourth, Verstappen fifth, Ricciardo in P6, and then, quite surprisingly, Charles Leclerc in P7, Ocon 8th, Magnussen 9th and Sergio Perez in 10th. And right there might be, we'll have to see in qualifying, but it might be clear evidence that Mercedes, sorry, my throat's seizing up, that Mercedes have clearly the fastest car. We'll have to see though again in qualifying if they can maintain that. And then the bottom 10 is Carlos Sainz in P11, then Gasly 12th, Grosjean 13th, then it's Hulkenberg, Ericsson, Hartley, Sirotkin, Stroll, Van Dorn and Fernando Alonso. Those are your practice 3 results. Right, before qualifying, we'll now go through all the teams and preview how I think and how you guys think they are all going to do in qualifying today. First off, Mercedes. Right now, I would have to make them favourites of pole position. In practice 3, Lewis Hamilton was over half a second clear of Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari. Bottas was also looking very fast. Not quite close enough to Hamilton, but definitely quick enough to get a front row here in qualifying. I'd be very surprised if Mercedes were not on pole position. They look like the team to beat. This track, of course, they have always been very good at. They've dominated this race ever since it started in 2014. They have had, I think in qualifying, they've had like 1 or 2 1-2s and have had pole position at all of the Russian Grand Prix except last year where it was Ferrari just about nicking a front row. But Mercedes have had all of the race wins here in Russia, and I'd be very surprised again if Mercedes did not get pole position. Next up is Ferrari. Not looking good for Ferrari, to be honest. In the first sector of this track, the Ferrari does look good because it's mainly about power, which is something Ferrari do have an advantage over Mercedes over. But when it comes to sector 2 and sector 3, when it's about being fast in those very high speed corners, the Ferrari just is not as good as the Mercedes. And this is not a, dramatic surprise. The Ferrari, compared to the Mercedes in fast corners, I don't think has ever been as quick since these 2017 regulations came about. For example, this year in Australia, in Austria and in Silverstone, even though Silverstone Ferrari were very quick, when it comes to, say, qualifying pace, at tracks with very high-speed corners, the Mercedes just works better than the Ferrari. The Ferrari likes those slower speed corners instead of the high-speed corners. And because Russia is very high-speed with its corners, that's why Ferrari at the minute look quite a bit off Mercedes. Very worrying times for Ferrari. Hopefully they can get their act together for qualifying. And thirdly is Red Bull. Now, because they have engine penalties and also gearbox penalties for the race, they're going to be starting at the back. So when it comes to qualifying, they're not really going to be doing anything. I wouldn't be surprised if in Q2 both Red Bulls didn't compete in Q2, because there's no point. They're going to be starting at the back. They might as well save the engine, save the gearbox and save some tyres for the race in case there is a 2-stop or maybe something dramatic happens. Red Bull are not going to be doing anything, again, really dramatic in today's qualifying session. But guys, what do you think about those 3 teams? Do you think Mercedes will get pole position? Do you think Ferrari will be a lot closer to Mercedes once we get to qualifying? And maybe Vettel can get pole position? Who knows? And for Red Bull, do you think they will actually complete the entire qualifying session? Or do you think that, like me, they'll probably do Q1 and then at the start of Q2 they just won't bother? Let's look at the chat now and see what some of you guys are saying ahead of qualifying. Francisco, I think Hamilton's pole with Vettel second. I'll get on to my predictions later on for qualifying here in Russia. Francisco also says, I hope Kimi does well. So far, Kimi, even though in practice 3 Kimi was quite close to Sebastian, Kimi this weekend just has not been quick. He has not been quick at all. Has been comfortably behind Sebastian Vettel, and if Vettel can't get within half a second of the Mercedes, then I don't see how Raikkonen can have a good qualifying. Beacon F1 says Lewis on pole, Bottas second, Vettel third and Kimi fourth. That looks very possible. Very, very possible. Simon Craglan, Mercedes looks very quick, and I am starting to think that Hamilton will get pole. But Valtteri lost 4 tenths in the final sector in FP3, which tells me that Vettel had a very poor sector 3. I think I watched... Yeah, I did. I watched Vettel's fastest lap in practice 3. His final sector, he didn't really make a mistake. It was more that his hypersoft tyres basically went off the cliff. They didn't have any grip left in them to actually compete for the fastest time. And for Valtteri Bottas, well, I didn't really see his fastest lap, but in that final sector, I think that is where Hamilton and definitely Mercedes are nailing down the lap for sure. JB, I think Hamilton will have a poor weekend. I know that you support Sebastian Vettel, so I think that's more hope than actual expectation. Simon Cragland, I wrote Vettel the whole time, mate, not Bottas. Oh yeah, you did write Vettel. Sorry, I thought you put Bottas. Yeah, Vettel in the last sector in FP3, he did lose a lot of time, but again, from what I saw and from what I saw of his tyres, it was down to bad tyre wear. It wasn't down to mistakes or anything. The Ferrari really eating up its tyres in that final sector. JB, yeah, probably, but remember, Russia is Hamilton's weakest. He did say that yesterday, Hamilton. He did say that Russia is his weakest track. And it probably is, even though he has won this race twice in the past. It is probably his weakest track. But so far, he has looked very, very quick. So, obviously, it being his weakest track is not really affecting him. I'm just trying to see who's putting comments in the chat right now. I think it's Tomate. I might have absolutely butchered that. Sorry if I have. Can Bottas take the pole, or can Vettel rob the pole from Mercedes? I think Bottas can get pole position because at Russia he is very, very quick, especially when it comes to qualifying. He has been so quick in the qualifying sessions here in Sochi in the past. So he can get pole. But for Vettel, I think it depends on how the Ferrari car is doing. If the Ferrari is not performing well in qualifying, I don't see how he can make a massive enough difference to put the car on pole position. I don't see it. This is not one of Vettel's best tracks on the calendar. So I don't think Vettel, when it comes to his own performance, can do that much. I think it's basically down to his car. Stella says Bottas does well around Russia. He could get pole, but very unlikely. I wouldn't say it's unlikely. I think there's a good chance of it. But after practice 3, of course, he wasn't really that close to Lewis. But in qualifying, I think Bottas will be, if he's not on pole, I think Bottas will be maybe a 10th away from Lewis Hamilton or a 10th away from pole position. We'll have to see, though, what happens when we get to qualifying. Nathan, hopefully Bottas will get his first win. He deserves more than one already this year. He does. He really does. Baku and China come to mind when it comes to victories he should have had. Bottas has been good this season. I think has been unfairly criticised in the last few weeks. Yes, at Monza and Singapore and Spa he wasn't that good. But in the first half of the season, which is why Mercedes have signed him for 2019 because of how good he was in the first half of this season, he was, I would say, about equal with Lewis. So I think Bottas has had a good season, and yeah, I hope he does get a race victory before the end of 2018 because he should have probably about 2 so far this season. Anonymous, any comments on Toro Rosso signing Kvyat? I'll get onto that once we get onto Toro Rosso, but I'm not going to cover it massively because I expected this and I covered that on my, I think it was last week when I went live for this week in Formula 1. I covered that rumour, basically saying it was going to come true, and it has. So it's not a massive surprise, so I won't go massively in depth with that, but yeah, I'll definitely cover it in a few minutes' time. I'll read out a couple more questions and comments in the chat, then we'll move on to the midfield. Shalang, what has happened to Ferrari? I don't know, really. I thought this track would be good for them, but it just doesn't look like it is. I don't know why. The only thing I can think of is that Mercedes have made not a massive upgrade with their aerodynamics, but I think they have made enough of an upgrade to get up to Ferrari or maybe overtake Ferrari in terms of who has the fastest car. But we do have to remember, of course, Sochi is a very good track for Mercedes in the past, and the next track in Suzuka is the same. So if Mercedes continue their domination, you know, from practice 3 and practice 2 for the rest of this weekend and into Suzuka, I wouldn't necessarily say it's all about Mercedes having the, you know, the better car. I just think the circuits are suiting their 2018 car well. Just looking at a couple more comments. Simon Cragland, do you think Bottas has underperformed recently, or do you think Hamilton has just stepped up? A bit of both. I think Bottas has got worse because his confidence has dropped because of the amount of bad luck he's had. You know, in France and Austria, Baku, China, the list goes on. And I think with Lewis Hamilton, I think after Silverstone, where Vettel won, which was a surprise because Ferrari were not expected to win that race. I think after that, Lewis kind of not necessarily looked at himself, but looked at Vettel winning and probably thought, you know what, Vettel and Ferrari, they're on a roll right now and they have a very fast car. I have to step up my own performance to win this championship. And since that race, he's won 4 of the last 5 races. Silverstone, for Hamilton, mentally, I think, was a big turning point this season. And, of course, Hockenheim with Vettel making that mistake. But, yeah, I think since his home race and what happened there and, you know, with Vettel winning, I think that was a turning point for Lewis. Right, we'll move on from the big 3 teams and go on to the midfield teams. First off is McLaren. And, well, there's nothing really much to say about McLaren. I'm kind of have to give them the Williams treatment in terms of with Williams I don't really talk about them at all because they're so bad. McLaren look like they are basically just as bad as Williams this weekend. They ended up with both cars 19th and 20th in practice 3, and with Fernando Alonso taking a penalty and Van Dorn being as slow as he is, I don't see how McLaren are even going to have anything that could be considered a good qualifying. I don't see it. McLaren so poor around this track. That setup they had from Monza that they were going to try here to try and make it work clearly is not working at all. Next up is Renault. Renault, they're not looking awful, but they're not looking that good. They're about where I expected. I think they have, at worst, the 7th fastest car, and at best, the 6th fastest car. I don't see how Renault, with their drivers, will get a car into the top 10. I just don't see it. This track does not suit the Renault car. If there were slower corners here, maybe Renault could be in the top 10, but I don't see it. I think Haas and Force India clearly have a faster car around this track, and maybe even Sauber as well. That is quite worrying for Renault in their fight to beat Haas for 4th in the Constructors. Not looking good for Renault either. And next up is Force India, who in practice 3 weren't amazing, but they still look very, very quick, and they could be still best of the rest, I think, in qualifying. They have a very fast car. This track suits basically everything good about the Force India, very similar to Haas. Force India, to me, are guaranteed to get both cars into the top 10, and I think, looking slightly ahead to the race, surely they're going to score points with both of their cars. They're just so quick at this track. Don't be surprised if Force India ended up locking out the 4th row, or maybe locking out the 3rd row if if Red Bull don't compete in Q2. Don't be surprised if Force India qualify very high up on the grid. It is a very good possibility. But guys, what do you think about McLaren? Do you think they can do anything better than getting knocked out in Q1? For Renault, do you think they can get a car into Q3? Just thinking about Red Bull not competing in Q2 possibly. If they do that, then of course that opens up 2 spots for someone in the midfield to get into Q3. So maybe Renault could get into the top 10, but we'll have to see what Red Bull do. And for Force India, do you think they will be best of the rest out of the midfield teams, or do you think that will go to Haas? What do you think about these 3 midfield teams? Halam899, Haas will beat Renault. I think that's pretty clear. Even if Renault get a car into the top 10, they're not going to beat Haas and Force India. I don't see it at all. JB, I still cannot believe that out in Australia, Alonso was saying, now we can fight. Yeah, I think we'll just leave it at that, because what happened after that race is an embarrassment, quite frankly. Halam899, do you think Renault and McLaren have underperformed this season? McLaren, absolutely. Considering what their expectations were coming into 2018, they have quite clearly underperformed. For Renault, in terms of where they are in the Constructors, no. But with the pace of their car, yes. I thought they would be clearly 4th by this time in the season in terms of the pace of the car. I thought they would be best of the rest at pretty much every race, excluding maybe a power track like Spa or Monza. But they just don't have a car that is right at the top of the midfield. They haven't had that type of car since, Canada? It's been a very long time since Renault have put in a very, very good performance. And, they're holding on to 4th at the minute, which is great, but they're not doing it, I think, in the way they would be hoping for. They're basically defending for their lives against Haas, and they might not be able to hold on to 4th, because with the tracks coming up, Haas, in terms of pace, should beat Renault to 4th in the Constructors. So when it comes to the pace of the Renault, yes, they have underperformed, but when it comes to their position in the championship, no. Simon Cragland, when do you think Renault will produce a good engine? I have no idea. I have no idea. I think maybe a change in the regulations might enable Renault to make a better power unit, but I don't see under these current regulations how Renault are going to be up there with Mercedes and Ferrari in terms of horsepower. I don't see it at all. We've had promises and promises and promises about Renault, about how Renault are going to be winning races, not necessarily as a works team, but, with Red Bull, how they're going to win races and maybe compete for a championship, and it just has not happened. So I don't know. I really don't know. I think, again, a regulation change for the power units is probably the only way they can actually get up there with Mercedes and Ferrari right now. And right now as well, it looks like Honda are ahead of Renault when it comes to horsepower. So Renault not looking good at all at the moment. Seirugara, Renault will be third next year. If Red Bull and Honda don't work out, then yeah, probably. But we'll have to see what Red Bull and Honda do at the start, and well, just 2019 in general. Beacon F1, when does qualifying start? It starts in 40 minutes time. I'll read out a couple more questions and comments, then we'll move on to the rest of the teams. Ronan Brady, Renault have done a bad job on the V6 engines. Ferrari were worse than them in 2014. Yeah, I think that basically shows how bad Renault have been in the V6 turbo era, that Ferrari, as you said, in 2014, Ferrari were behind Renault. It wasn't a massive difference, but Renault were definitely ahead of Ferrari. But then look at how the gap between Ferrari and Renault since the start of 2015 has grown and grown and grown. It's very embarrassing for Renault. Renault, they might not be as big as Ferrari, but they still are a very big manufacturer. And I don't think there's an excuse for them to fall so far behind Mercedes and Ferrari. Francisco says, imagine if Leclerc qualifies 5th. I think he's saying there. Yep. If he qualified 5th, that would be amazing. That'd definitely be the best performance in qualifying. Seirugara, just look at how McLaren were with Honda. I don't think Red Bull are going to be as bad, but I think 4th for Red Bull next year. If it doesn't work out as well as Red Bull want it to, then yeah, I think that is definitely a possibility. But if Honda continue their progress that they're clearly making, and the integration process, with the power unit into the car goes well, unlike what happened at McLaren, then I think Red Bull will be at least 3rd in 2019 and might be a bit closer to Mercedes and Ferrari. But I'm not going to throw, massive expectations on Red Bull and Honda for next season. JB, who will be at the back of the grid next season? Williams. I don't think that is a massive surprise to say either. I think it'll be Williams, because they're probably going to be losing more money going into 2019 because Martini are leaving as a sponsor at the end of 2018. So yeah, I think it's going to be Williams for sure. But we'll move on to the remaining teams. And talking of Williams, let's go on to them now. They aren't the slowest, I think. I think at full potential, I think Williams aren't too far off maybe getting out of Q1. I think with Sergei Sorokin, maybe he can cause a shock, who knows. But realistically, Williams, again, they're going to be about 17th or 18th, where they were in practice through the car. Just is not quick this weekend. Next up is Toro Rosso. Toro Rosso, in terms of pace, yesterday were looking good. They had the new Honda power unit in yesterday, which was performing very well. But because there were some issues with that power unit that they were a bit concerned about, they've now gone back to the old one for the rest of the weekend, meaning that, well, they're going to be starting at the back anyway, but meaning that they're not going to be probably as quick for the rest of the weekend. They're going to save that new power unit for next week's, for Honda, home race in Suzuka. So Toro Rosso aren't going to be maybe as quick as they were yesterday, but might not be too far off getting into Q3. They might be a bit closer, than other people are expecting. And just to cover the news, that Danny Kvyat, guys, is going back to Toro Rosso. No real surprise considering the rumours as of late, but if you asked me at the start of this year, you know, if you'd said, you know, do you think Kvyat will be at Toro Rosso or back at Toro Rosso for 2019, I would have said no chance. No chance at all. But this is what has happened. Obviously, for Helmut Marko, he has been impressed by what Danny Kvyat has done, even though he has not done any racing. Helmut Marko has said for Kvyat that Kvyat has overcome some mental challenges. That's good to hear. Hopefully he won't be a torpedo for 2019 and maybe 2020 if it continues that long. So, yeah, good news. I really like Kvyat. I always have. I thought he was unfairly dropped from Red Bull in 2016. Unfairly dropped from Toro Rosso in 2017. I've always rated the guy. He's not perfect. He can have some wild moments, but he is definitely good enough to be an F1. No doubt about it. And he proved that at Red Bull in 2015 and the first 4 races he did in 2016 as well. Danny Kvyat definitely deserves to be in F1. Next up is Haas. Haas are... they're looking good in terms of beating Renault, but then they're not as good as I thought they would be. I thought they would be maybe at the front of the midfield battle, because I thought this track would maybe suit the Haas slightly more than the Force India. Of course, the Force India is also very good at this track, but I thought this track would suit the Haas more. But it just does not seem as though it actually is. Haas, I think with one of their cars, definitely will get into Q3. They'll probably get both cars into Q3. Where they'll finish, I'm not quite sure. I don't think they can beat Force India. I don't think they can. I think Force India have an edge on them in terms of qualifying pace and probably race pace as well. So, again, it's looking good compared to their rivals Renault, but not as good as I thought it would be. Definitely more pace in that car, I think, for Haas. And finally is Sauber, who all weekend have been so fast. Charles Leclerc was P7 in practice 3. If both Red Bulls, you know, don't compete in Q3 and Leclerc qualifies, you know, in that kind of position, he might be P5 for the Russian Grand Prix. That would be absolutely incredible. Again, we'll have to see if the Red Bulls actually do, do Q3, but that would be amazing. If he could even qualify in P7, that would be amazing. Hopefully Charles Leclerc will do well. He hasn't had, when it comes to qualifying, he hasn't had the greatest of qualifying sessions in the last few races. The last good one I thought was Hockenheim, where he qualified, I think, in 9th, something like that, or 8th or 9th. It was around that area. So he needs, I think, this weekend to have a good qualifying, and I think he will. I think he will. I think he will be maybe a surprise inclusion in Q3 very quick this weekend, and so is Marcus Ericsson, who of course is being dropped for 2019 from Sauber, but it looks as though Ericsson wants to go out with a bang, and he's starting it this weekend, looking very fast, and finished up in P10 in practice 2 yesterday. So he does have the pace to also cause a shock. But guys, when it comes to those 4 teams, what do you think about Williams? Do you think they can get a car into Q2 with home favourite Sergei Sorokin. For Toro Rosso, what do you think about their pace, and what do you think about the news that Danny Kvyat is going back to Toro Rosso for 2019? Do you think Haas can be best of the rest in that midfield battle ahead of Force India or not? And for Sauber, do you think they can get a car into Q3? What do you guys think about these 4 teams ahead of qualifying? Simon Cragland, I'm really looking forward to see how quick Sauber will be today. I am too. They've looked, again, surprisingly fast so far in the weekend. I still don't think they'll be quicker than Force India and Haas, but I think they will be, say, 9th or 10th, something like that. They're definitely going to be very interesting to watch, in my opinion. Beacon F1, Leclerc is going to be your one to watch. I'll get onto that in a moment. But it isn't Leclerc, by the way. It is not Charles Leclerc. Francisco, with Red Bull out with penalties, Sauber can get 2 cars into Q3, but behind Force India. If they got 2 cars into Q3, that would be an amazing result for Sauber. Amazing result, because coming into this weekend, I don't think even Sauber thought they could do that. Ronan Brady, Sauber will miss out, or just miss out on Q3. It is so close in that midfield. And another thing I noticed in the midfield is in practice 3, from Leclerc in P7 down to, I think it might have been Hulkenberg in 13th or 14th. It was very close in terms of lap time. So, you know, if there's a couple mistakes from drivers that should be getting into Q3, you never know. There could be some surprises, or, you know, some teams maybe not performing as well as they should be. Ivan Reed says, I agree, Sauber will be top end of Q2. I think at least, yeah, they will be, say, 11th and 13th, something like that, at worst. I think, at best, though, they might be able to get a car into Q3. Snow Leopard Productions, do you think Vettel can cope with the pressure of possibly losing the championship? I don't think... I think there's less pressure on Vettel now, somehow, because, you know, there's still pressure on him to win the remaining races. He has to win basically every race, but because Hamilton now has a 40-point lead with 6 races to go, I don't know, it feels to me like there's almost slightly less pressure on Vettel, because now he knows he just has to go out there and attack and get the race wins. And whatever Lewis Hamilton does is what he does. At least Vettel now knows that he has to win every race going forward for the end, going towards the end of the season. I think if Vettel was leading by, say, 10 points or 15 points with 6 races left, I think Vettel would be under way more pressure than he is now, because Hamilton, again, has enough of a lead to the point where Vettel just has to go for it now and be very loose with his driving. Nathan, I don't think he will win next year either. Leclerc will take too many points off of him. Well, we'll see in 2019. Leclerc, I think, will be surprisingly good for some people. I'm really hoping Vettel wins the next few races so we can get an Abu Dhabi decider. Totally not because I'm a Vettel fan. I want a title decider in Abu Dhabi, not because I support one driver over the other, because I just want a final race title decider. I love, you know, world championships that go to the final race. I think it is great entertainment, tension. I think it's great, and if we had that somehow this season, then what an end to 2018 it would be. Shalang, Vettel will crash out in qualifying. Well, with the way the Ferrari's looking, it's not impossible. certainly not impossible. The Ferrari not looking very good in terms of grip around some of the corners. But you can F1 if Hamilton wins here and Vettel finishes second, then Vettel would need to win every race of Hamilton, having at least a third or lower finish or something like that. I've actually worked it out. I think it's right. If Hamilton wins this race and Vettel finishes second, then if Hamilton finishes third at every single race going forward after that, so Suzuka, Kota, Mexico, Brazil and Abu Dhabi, and Vettel wins at those races, then Hamilton will take the title, I think. I might be wrong on that. Actually, I think I am. I think Hamilton... I think with 5 races left, I think Hamilton would need... If Hamilton won this race and Vettel finished second, then for the remaining 5 races, Hamilton would need like 4 P3s and 1 P2. Something like that. Lawson, do you think Kimi will help Vettel or go on to help himself in the race? It depends where Vettel is. If Raikkonen somehow is in the lead, or somehow in second, but Vettel is miles behind for some reason, then I think Kimi has to focus on his own race. He can't focus on what Vettel's doing. If Vettel was right behind him, or if Vettel was just ahead and battling with the Mercedes, then Kimi is going to have to try and help his teammate. But again, it depends where Vettel is on the track. Shalang, who will get pole? Is Kimi going to give Vettel a tow? I don't know if Ferrari are going to do that. I don't think Ferrari do that sort of thing. They used to with Fernando Alonso and Felipe Massa. They did it a few times when they were teammates, but I don't think that's in Ferrari's nature to do that here in qualifying this weekend. Ivan, Kimi will be his own driver, I think, from now on. If that allows him to get a final race win, that'd be great. If he concentrated on his own performance and got that final race win. Right, we'll move on from the teams and go on, guys, to my one to watch for qualifying today. And it is Sergio Perez. In practice 2 yesterday, he was very quick in P7. Not too far off the 2 the 2 Ferraris in practice 2 as well. He wasn't miles off, actually quite a bit closer to the 2 Ferraris who were P5 and P6 in practice 2 yesterday. I think Perez, with the car he has, if he gets a great lap in Q3 and just really wrings the neck of the car, I think Perez could end up starting very high for the Russian Grand Prix. I really do. I really do. Perez has always been good at this track. He finished on the podium here in 2015. This is a good Sergio Perez track. And if there is chaos tomorrow, and if the Red Bulls starting at the back cannot get their way through the field quick enough, Perez, he might get a podium. He might get a podium. You never know. He really could get a podium. But again, there would have to be a lot of chaos tomorrow. But for qualifying today, if he hooks up a lap, I think he could be starting very high up on the grid and have a great chance of a big points finish in tomorrow's Grand Prix. But guys, what do you think of that? Do you think Perez is the one to watch, or do you think it's Charles Leclerc or Esteban Ocon? Who do you think is the one to watch in today's qualifying session in Russia? Let me look at the chat right now to see what some of you guys are saying. Who you think is the one to watch for qualifying today? JB, I think Ocon will out-qualify Perez. But they will be P5 and P6 if Red Bulls don't go into Q3. If they do, then they'll be P7 and P8. Yeah, I think Force India, that's basically the best they can do. in qualifying today, and it's definitely possible. Even though they haven't been in any of the practice sessions with both cars, with, you know, best of the rest, it's definitely possible, but they have to hook up the lap. They absolutely have to. Ronan Brady, Perez, I agree with you. Okay. Shalang says Bottas and Charles Leclerc for pole position. I think Bottas is one that might catch people by surprise. And also Leclerc catching people by surprise in the midfield battle. So maybe. Francisco, one to watch. Definitely Charles. I don't know why I'm just not rating Sauber's car really at the moment. I still think when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of qualifying that Force India and Haas will have a faster car. I just don't see how Sauber can, when it comes to qualifying, beat Force India and Haas. And when it comes to qualifying sessions as of late, Sauber have been quite disappointing. Hungary, they were poor. Yes, I know Hungary's not a good track for them, but still. Spa, they were expected to do well there. They disappointed in 13th and 14th. In Italy, they were so poor in that qualifying. And even though they went on to score points in Singapore, their qualifying was not that great. It was not that great. So I think they'll drop back in qualifying. JB Bottas will get pole, mark my words. Okay. I'll make sure to remember that at the end of Q3. McLaw Larson, Sorokin to beat Stroll, one to watch. We'll see what Williams do. I don't expect anything from Williams really in this session. I think realistically they will be knocked out in Q1. Just looking at some more comments. Gina, my one to watch is Vettel. I want to see how he will deal with this pressure. Yeah, it will be interesting to see what he's like when it comes down to the final 2 laps in Q3. Whether he is too ragged or too aggressive. It will be interesting to see what he's like there. But I don't think the Ferrari car is close enough for him to be necessarily under pressure for pole. Because, yeah, I don't think the Ferrari is doing well this weekend. I'm not going to pronounce this person's name because it is very long, and yeah, I'll definitely butcher that name. Hamilton pole, 2nd Bottas, and 3rd Kimi. I disagree with Kimi being in the top 3 because, as I'll get onto in a moment, Kimi has not been good this weekend. He's been quite a bit off the pace. Shalang, but isn't better for Vettel to start 3rd because of the start. It can be, but it depends on how you get off the start line. If you don't have a good start, then you're going to be under threat from everyone else behind you. So, yes, it can be a good thing starting 3rd, but only if you get a good start. So there's no guarantee that starting 3rd means, you know, that Vettel can have a good race start and get into the lead of the race. You still do want to be, at the very least, on the front row. For sure. Gina, Kimi not looking good. Yep, I agree. Ronan Brady, Alonso could get close to Q3. But ultimately, car will be too slow to achieve that. To be fair, I'd be surprised if he got out of Q1. The McLaren looks so poor. I don't think he will get out of Q1, honestly. And if he does, the best he could hope for is what? 14th, 13th? At the absolute best. The McLaren just is not quick this weekend, JB, because Verstappen is starting behind Ricciardo. Will there be some nail-biting battling? Usually if Ricciardo starts behind, then he leaves Max alone. If Max starts behind, he will try to overtake. After the start, maybe if Verstappen is behind Ricciardo, that might be very interesting to see what happens. But again, we'll have to see what happens after the start because, you know, both Red Bulls could be out at the start of the race. We've had massive accidents at turn 2 at the start of these races before. So no guarantee that the Red Bull drivers will actually make it, you know, past the first lap. Shalang, what do you think the gap will be between Mercedes and Ferrari after qualifying? If Mercedes get pole, I think it will be maybe 2 or 3 tenths of a second, something like that. I think that's about right. But again, if Ferrari are hiding pace, then it could be very close, or maybe in Ferrari's favour. We'll have to see. Right, we'll move on now, guys, to my predictions for qualifying here in Sochi. Thanks for the comments, as always, guys. First off, pole position. For pole position, I am going with Lewis Hamilton. Even though this is one of his weakest tracks, Hamilton looks so fast right now. He is so motivated to win his 5th world title. A lot more motivated, it seems, than Sebastian Vettel right now. And the Mercedes car is working very well at Sochi. Not a massive surprise because a lot of the corners do suit the Mercedes car in terms of their chassis. So it's not a massive surprise, but still, Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton, I think, are the favourites for pole position, and I think they will be on pole position. I don't see how anyone realistically can beat Hamilton to pole. After what he did in Singapore, it's very hard to bet against Hamilton because he has so much pace when it comes to that final lap or two in Q3. In second place, I'm going for a bit of a shock in second place. Sebastian Vettel. Now, it's not a massive shock, but considering practice 3 and the results of that, Ferrari don't look as though with Vettel they will finish up in P2. But I think Ferrari are still saving not a massive amount of engine power, but they are saving a bit for qualifying. Of course, they don't want to have any reliability issues in practice, so I think they are saving something. Mercedes are as well, but I think Ferrari is saving more. But yeah, I think when it comes to Q3, I think Vettel will pull out a very good lap. It won't be good enough to get pole because the Mercedes is working better than his car, but I think it will be a good enough lap to get him onto the front row. And considering how the Mercedes and Ferrari cars are performing, it will be, if he does get it, a very good second place because Ferrari just don't have any real pace right now in their car. And in third, I'm going Valtteri Bottas. Now, Bottas, of course, has been very good at this track in the past. In qualifying, he has been very good. In 2014, he qualified in third and almost and should have got pole position. In 2015, he qualified third. In 2016, he qualified third but started on the front row because of a penalty. And in 2017, last year, he started third and won the race. So he does have a very good and excellent record at Sochi, but because of the pace of his teammate and because Vettel is under pressure to perform in qualifying, I think he will end up in third place. It will be quite close, I think, at the end between the top 3. I think Bottas will be very close to Vettel and Hamilton, but not close enough to actually beat them in qualifying. But for Bottas, I wouldn't be surprised if he qualified second or qualified on pole. I think it's going to be very close between the top 3 in qualifying. But guys, what do you think about those top 3 positions? Who are you going with for the top 3 or the top 5? What are your predictions for qualifying with about 10 minutes remaining until qualifying? Who are you going for pole position? Who do you think will be second, third, fourth and fifth? Who are you going with? I'll cut to the chat now and see what you guys are saying in terms of predictions. Ivan, Bottas, oh no, he's changed it to Hamilton first. Bottas second, Kimi I'm trying to work out what you've done there because you've made a mistake and you've tried to correct it. So he's gone Hamilton first, Kimi second, Bottas third, Vettel fourth, and Ocon fifth. That would be a quite surprising Q3 if Kimi Räikkönen ended up on the front row. That would be quite surprising. Francisco, Hamilton on pole, Vettel second, Bottas third, and Kimi fourth. That's the top four that I'm going with. McLaur Larson, Hamilton first, Bottas second, Vettel third, and Kimi fourth. If you're just joining, by the way, don't forget to put in your predictions for qualifying. And don't forget to like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video and what you think of qualifying if you're watching this after. And don't forget, of course, to subscribe either on the bottom right of the screen, click on my channel name, or click on the link in the description that goes to my channel page so you can subscribe. And as well, don't forget, of course, to join our Discord server, link below down in the description, I think. And also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with me and the channel. And don't forget to check out the website, chazahd.com, again, to keep up to date with the channel. Halam899, Kimi pole. Just looking, Simon Cragland, I really hope Vettel takes pole. For the championship, it probably would be a better thing if Vettel got pole, because of course we want it to be close at the end of the season, even though it probably won't be. So yeah, in terms of the title being, you know, in terms of the title battle being exciting, Vettel being on pole would be, you know, a good thing from that standpoint. McLaur Larson, do you use F1 TV? I'm afraid not, because we don't have it in the UK. I would, though, use it if we did have it. I would absolutely use it, and I would only watch F1 TV. It's basically an F1 fan's dream, and if you do have it available in your country, you have to get it. You have to get it. It is so good from the things I've heard from people that have used it. Shalang, Hamilton first, Bottas second, Kimi third, Perez fourth, and Vettel fifth. Wow, you're really not rating Vettel's chances in qualifying. That's interesting. Toro, is that? Yeah, Toro Loco says Bottas on pole, Hamilton second, and Sebastian Vettel in third. By the way, we're just over 5 minutes away from the start of qualifying. Keep putting your predictions in, guys, in the chat to who you think will be on pole, finish in second, third, fourth, fifth, and the rest, of course, goes on. I think it's Hydra, I think it says there. Hamilton first, Vettel first, Hamilton second, and Bottas third. Yeah, maybe if Ferrari improve a lot over you know, from practice 3 to qualifying, maybe they can, but I don't see it. I really don't see it. Scuderia D just joined. What is going on? Nothing much. We're just building up to qualifying. We are just over 5 minutes away from the start of qualifying, so you haven't really missed much. Again, qualifying starting in about 5 minutes time. JB, Bottas on pole, Vettel second, Hamilton third, and Räikkönen fourth. Ben McCarthy, Kvyat first, Giovinazzi second, Norris third, and Latifi fourth. Yep, you're just in time. Scuderia D just made it on time. Ivan Reed, I think maybe Vettel try too hard and lose out. It's a possibility. Of course, Vettel has to be very aggressive going forward. He has to be aggressive. If he does not get pole, and he does not, you know, going down to turn 2 in tomorrow's Russian Grand Prix, if he does not get into the lead and Lewis Hamilton is leading, it's going to be very hard for Vettel to win this championship. It's a very important weekend for Sebastian. JB, in fact, I think it will be Räikkönen on pole. I'm just trying to read because my screen is quite far away from me. I can't actually see who you've put in second and third because, again, I can't read it that well from where I'm sat. Nathan, do you think any chance for Sorokin to get a home point? If there is, maybe a big turn 2 accident on the first lap and he avoids it, maybe. But realistically, no. I don't see it. Han Solo, Ricciardo won't try to overtake Verstappen. Not true. All Ricciardo really wants is, for one time at least, to overtake Verstappen. But this will not happen because Verstappen is too fast for Daniel. We got to see what happens at the start. We have to see what happens at the start. If Verstappen has an issue and Ricciardo gets ahead, then yeah, Ricciardo might finish ahead. Someone's gone there. Hamilton on pole, Bottas second and Vettel third for qualifying. In my opinion, is he gone? Ben McCarthy, I think that has gone Verstappen on pole. Oh, if it rains, okay. Right, keep putting your comments in the chat. I'm just loading up my Twitter so I can get some pictures ready for you guys to post on the screen for the qualifying watch along. By the way, guys, just to let you guys know, the review of qualifying, the recorded version, will be out tomorrow morning UK time at 8 AM. So that's about 4 hours before the race starts tomorrow. And also for the race watch along tomorrow, I will have a timing screen of sorts. It's more going to be like a running order of the top 10, which I'll update every 5 laps or 10 laps. I'll try my best, but it's more of a trial run for the first, for this first, for the first time I'm going to use this. So yeah, just need to let you guys know about that. Hydra, Red Bull will have fresh tyres tomorrow. Yep, they will. If it's a 2-stop, then that's going to suit Red Bull quite a lot. Shun Wang Shang, will you live the qualifying from here? No, I won't be able to because I would get my channel struck down very, very quickly. Hallam899, please at least can he do well? Goodbye to JB. Hopefully his driver does well. Ben McCarthy, will it be a 2-stop or a 1-stop? I'm going to get more into that tomorrow, but right now I'd have to say probably a 1-stop. But again, we'll get into that more in depth in tomorrow's build-up in the race watch-along. Just trying to look through the chat to see if I've missed anyone's predictions. If you still have any predictions, then put it in the chat below, and I will read it out before qualifying starts. 1-stop, definitely. That's from Beacon F1. Yeah, I think it will be. This is a very low abrasive track. There you go, the picture of Daniel Ricciardo on the screen. Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel, Raikkonen. Just saw one there from Beacon F1. Just looking to see any predictions. Again, if you have a prediction, then put it in the chat. Qualifying is starting in 2 minutes time. So 2 minutes time until the start of qualifying. Ben McCarthy, Russia apparently have the cheapest F1 tickets. It's easy to see why. Yeah, it's because no one wants to go to this race because it's such a boring track. And the races that are produced are so bad. So bad. I cannot wait until the day that the Russian Grand Prix at Sochi is gone. Nothing against the country of Russia. It's just the track that has been designed for this race is nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough for F1 racing. They have to find, if they're going to do a Russian Grand Prix, I think they need to find a better track or design a better track for racing. Because if they can design maybe a track like Baku or something for Russia, then they've got a great chance of having great races in Russia. But with the current layout of this Sochi track, I don't see us ever getting a good Russian Grand Prix. Just looking for some pictures on Twitter. Again, keep putting your predictions in the chat for who you think will be on pole position here in Russia, as qualifying has now officially started and got underway. Ben McCarthy, the best Russian Grand Prix ever was 2015. What would you rate that race out of 10? It wasn't the worst race I've ever seen, but out of 10, the best I'd give it is like a 5. I think the only real exciting part of that race was the Bottas-Raikkonen crash at the end. Everything else, I mean, yeah, there was passing, but it wasn't, you know, dramatic passing. It was very easy DRS overtakes. Scuderia D, how do you feel about Kvyat return? I'm happy for Kvyat. I think it's a great thing that he's back in F1. And I'm hoping he has learned a bit not to be a torpedo. Hydra, I think there will be lots of overtakes at the start of the race, so qualifying isn't super important. It's not as important as other tracks, but it is still important here. It is still important. As on the track right now, we have Kimi Raikkonen, Kevin Magnussen, Romain Grosjean and the 2 Williams cars, but no one yet has set a lap time. Ivan Reed, I'm off. Hope you and everyone has a good afternoon. The F1 awaits. Yep, hopefully you do too. Thanks for coming along and being a part of the watch along. Trying to just look at see if I can get some pictures on the screen for you guys of what's going on. I'll post a picture now of where qualifying is taking place here in Russia. Very beautiful day here in Sochi. Very beautiful day. Yesterday the weather was not that great. It was actually quite cold, I think. Today a lot warmer, which should suit Ferrari more, but it isn't. It just isn't for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe now that it's hotter now at this part of the day, maybe that will suit Ferrari more. We'll see. Right. Just trying to get this picture on the screen for you guys. There you go. Very beautiful backdrop to this race. The track isn't good at all, but at least it is a pretty backdrop for qualifying. As Sergei Sorokin, the home favourite, has started his first lap in Q1. Hydra, Vettel getting Raikkonen's slipstream. Ben McCarthy, Red Bull will make overtakes tomorrow to beat last year's record. Last year's race, in terms of the lack of overtakes, it will definitely be beaten. There'll definitely be more overtakes tomorrow, no doubt, but that's only because we have the Red Bulls at the back. That's the only reason. Halam899, who do you think is the worst F1 champion? I'd have to go Nico Rosberg. Aerodynamics, hello, I'm late, no problem. Qualifying has just started, so you've arrived just in time. Ben McCarthy, Japan is next week, right? I'd rather wake up at 6 o'clock than what we are going to witness tomorrow. I would too. Suzuka is a way better track than this one. Not even a debate. Sergei Sorokin comes around for his first lap and goes second because Kevin Magnussen is fastest on a 1:34 flat. Sorokin is second. Lance Stroll is, well, he was third. He's now down to fourth. I think Romain Grosjean has just gone up to P2. Beacon F1 says Red Bulls will crash out tomorrow. Of course, being at the back at this track with the way that turn 2 and 3 complex is, you're under threat from crashing out because of other cars having dramatic moments. So it's definitely a possibility. And I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of the Red Bulls crashed out at turn 2 or maybe during the race. as Charles Leclerc is on his lap now, but he is 3 tenths down on Kevin Magnussen so far. Kimi Raikkonen has now gone fastest on a 1:33.8. Vettel now fastest on a 1:33.5. I'll read out the order of Q1 once we get everyone's lap times up on the board. Charles Leclerc coming across the line and goes up to 4th ahead of Romain Grosjean and Ericsson and Hartley, Sirotkin and Stroll. All the other drivers have not completed a lap time, so we'll wait for them to do their laps. Ben McCarthy, that Williams is struggling with rear grip through 12 in the final corner. The Williams struggles for grip in every single corner at every single track on the calendar. It is just such a poor car when it comes to aero and chassis. Halam899, I like early races anyway. It does feel as though kind of a reward if you wake up for an early race like Japan or Australia or China. If you wake up for that race and it's a great one, it does feel like a reward. But when you wake up early for a race and you get such a boring one, then yeah, it is not a reward at all. It's actually, you get like a feeling of why did I even bother waking up at this time? Aerodynamics, yep, you are right, Chaz on Williams. It's true. What positive aero do they have? They don't. There's nothing positive about the aero. The only positive thing about their car is the power unit, which is something they're not responsible for. Lewis Hamilton is currently on a lap and is 1/4 of a second up on Sebastian Vettel. But he's going to come across, I think, some traffic in a moment. Valtteri Bottas also on a lap. Halam899, who do you think is the best driver not to win a championship? I'll answer that in a moment. Just got to wait for these two Mercedes cars to come through and set their laps. Bottas and Hamilton look very fast right now. Hamilton's still 1/4 of a second up on Sebastian Vettel. So Valtteri Bottas comes through on his first lap in qualifying and sets a 1:33.1. Very fast lap. That's almost 4 tenths of a second faster than Sebastian Vettel. Lewis Hamilton comes across the line and does a... Lewis Hamilton has made a mistake. So Hamilton is now 10th. He did a 1:34.5, so a mistake there for Lewis Hamilton in the final corners because he was going to go fastest and probably do, say, a 1:32.8 or a 1:32.7. Forza Vettel, aerodynamics, slow lap for Hamilton. It was because I think of a mistake in the final sector. We haven't seen it though on the screen yet. Kimi Raikkonen coming through the middle sector. He's not too far off Valtteri Bottas. He's 1/2 tenth behind Bottas. Vettel's only a 10th off in the middle sector. The two Ferraris are currently on a lap. Kimi Raikkonen comes now to the penultimate corner into turn 17. Car looks good. Turn 18 looks good as well. And where does Kimi Raikkonen go? Second and just under 2 tenths of a second under Valtteri Bottas' time. Vettel, though, behind Raikkonen and in 3rd place. Vettel not looking good. Not looking good for Vettel. But of course, this is only Q1. Ferrari and Mercedes will definitely go through to the 2nd and to the 3rd part of qualifying. Marcus Ericsson is on a lap. He's coming through to the final 2 corners. Ericsson is P11 and Charles Leclerc is P8. So Sauber are looking okay as Ericsson goes up to P9. Good lap. Where does Charles Leclerc go though? He will go 6th. Very good lap by Charles Leclerc. So the drivers and Carlos Sainz sets a lap. So the drivers not to set a lap so far is Hulkenberg, Van Dorn and the 2 Red Bulls. I don't think the Red Bulls are going to be coming out for qualifying. I'm not entirely sure though. Maybe they will. Maybe they're just waiting for the track to empty out so they can set a lap. As the Force India, I think, is that Esteban Ocon? Yes, it is. Esteban Ocon, I think, is on a lap right now. He's up in P5. Good lap there from Ocon. Ben McCarthy, every race weekend, we have that music intro, but for Sochi, it should be a king of wishful thinking for a good race. Hamilton World Champion 2018, that's him, Georges. As Ocon is coming through to the final 2 corners on a lap. Ham 899. By the end of the race, it will be 50 points to Lewis. Maybe. We'll see what happens, though, in qualifying first, because that is still important, despite, of course, you know, starting behind certain cars, you can get a great run down to turn 2, but qualifying is still important. So let's see what happens here first. As Force India are 5th and 6th. Very good. As the 2 Red Bulls come out onto the track. So, the Red Bulls are going to be doing Q1. Not sure if they'll do Q2, but they will be doing Q1. We'll wait for them to set a lap, and then I will read out the order just before the final laps in Q1. Ferrari Constructors Championship, Hamilton Drivers Championship. That's from Ronald McDonald Trump. Yeah, there's a possibility of Ferrari winning the Constructors. I don't think they will. I think Mercedes will win the Constructors. I just don't think Ferrari have the consistency to win the Constructors or the Drivers' title. I don't see it. Ben McCarthy, who designed the Sochi track, because they're nuts. It was Herman Tilke, I think, who designed this track. Yeah, it not a good layout at all. Very bad. And I do especially hate Mr. Tilke's obsession with 90-degree corners, which, as far as I'm concerned, should never be allowed on a racetrack. 90-degree corners do not promote good racing at all. You either need a slow corner or a fast corner, not 90-degree corners. And with Russia, they're all over the place. Such a poor track, especially, again, with those 90-degree corners. Well, I'll post a picture now of the fastest man currently in qualifying so far in Q1, Valtteri Bottas. Fastest from Sebastian Vettel. Fastest from Kimi Raikkonen. Oh no, it's Lewis Hamilton has now gone fastest. So Bottas is now second, but he was a moment to go fastest from Kimi Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel. Is there a problem here for Lewis Hamilton? It looks like he's going very slowly and he's holding the top of the steering wheel. This looks like a problem to me. Unless he's just having a rest, I'm not sure, but that looked a bit worrying for Hamilton. What's your answer to my question? I believe, was it who is the best driver to not win a championship? The best driver to not win a championship, I'd probably go Gilles Villeneuve or Sterling Moss, one of those two, as the best to never win a title. Ben McCarthy, let's compare Tilke designs. Sepang, off the calendar. Sochi, okay, a bit nuts. Then Yas Marina, the flipping season finale. Herman Tilke has designed good racing tracks like Sepang. Very good track. What's the other one? Bahrain. That's a great track. I think China's a great track. But Sochi, Abu Dhabi, I'm sorry, nowhere near good enough, I'm afraid. Bottas for pole and win. Maybe. Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo are now on their laps. Verstappen, with this lap, will go up into P5, I think. But Ricciardo is looking very fast, so maybe it'll be P6 by the time Daniel Ricciardo comes around and sets his lap. Max Verstappen goes third, actually, ahead of the two Ferraris. Wow, that's surprising. Ferrari just are not quick. And Ricciardo now goes third. So it's Lewis Hamilton from Valtteri Bottas, then the two Red Bulls of Ricciardo and Verstappen, and then Raikkonen fifth and Vettel sixth. Wow, Ferrari are just not at the races. Where is their pace? Where is it? I don't get this. But right, we'll read out the order ahead of the final laps in Q1. So Hamilton fastest, Bottas second, Ricciardo third, Verstappen fourth, Raikkonen fifth, Vettel sixth, and then the two Haases of Grosjean and Magnussen seventh and eighth, and then Perez ninth, Ocon 10th. So Haas and Force India looking as fast as I thought they would be. And then Leclerc P11, Gasly P12, Ericsson P13, Hulkenberg P14. 15th is Sainz. Renault are not looking good in 14th and 15th. They've got to get up there and set a good lap. As Lewis Hamilton, wow, what a lap that is. Lewis Hamilton goes fastest, goes even faster on a 1:32.4 and is half a second clear of his teammate Bottas. Hamilton is on fire this weekend. So yeah, Hulkenberg 14th, Sainz 15th, and then in the drop zone is Brendan Hartley, Fernando Alonso. We're just looking at a replay right now before I read out who is in the drop zone. So hold on, let's just wait for this replay to end. Yep, as Blessed Juve says, it's only Q1. Absolutely. Hamilton could have an issue in Q2 or Q3. And Vettel could steal it, we don't know. So yeah, in the drop zone is Hartley, Alonso, Sirotkin, Van Dorn and Stroll. So they need to get out. And Hulkenberg, Sainz and Ericsson, I would say, and probably Gasly and Leclerc are at risk of being knocked out. As Nico Hulkenberg is on a lap right now to try and get himself away from that bottom five. Nothing can stop Hamilton right now. That's absolutely correct. As Hulkenberg, wow, fighting the car massively there as he's coming up to the mid-sector time beam. The Renault just does not look hooked up at all here in Sochi. Alonso and Van Dorn have set actual slower first sectors, so not looking good for McLaren. Hulkenberg, after the first two sectors, I think he might improve, but it's not going to be massive. Hulkenberg now coming to the final three corners, come through the chicane. The Renault is so poor in terms of stability. So poor. Penultimate corner for Nico Hulkenberg, and now comes to the last corner. Where will Hulkenberg go? He doesn't improve and stays 14th. He is under threat in 14th. Stoffel Van Dorn is now coming through to the penultimate corner. There's a yellow flag in sector 2. I don't know what for. It's a Williams, and it is Sergei Sirotkin has not quite hit the wall as Van Dorn goes 19th. He's out of qualifying. Carlos Sainz goes up to 14th. Marcus Ericsson is coming through now to set a lap time. He's in 13th. He now goes up to P10. Great there by Ericsson. Charles Leclerc goes up to P7. Great lap. Max Verstappen is going for another lap. He is currently in P4. And here comes Max Verstappen round the final corner. Goes a bit wide and ends up actually getting third. So great job there. As Toro Rosso just went through there. Pierre Gasly in 13th. Hartley is really the only driver here that can actually knock one of the Renaults out, but I don't think he's going to. I think he got caught up with the yellow flag that was caused by Sergei Sirotkin. Yep, he was. He's now in the pits. So Brendan Hartley, Fernando Alonso, Sergei Sirotkin, Stoffel Van Dorn and Lance Stroll are out in Q1. Not bad Q1 there. Not the most exciting of the season, but not bad. Yes, Honda. As I'm Hallam 899. Ben McCarthy, Stroll is 0.8 seconds behind Sirotkin. That just proves what I've been saying all season, that Stroll is not as good as Sirotkin. He's not as good as him. Stroll has been so poor when it comes to qualifying, I think, for the majority of the season. Vettel will get Ultra Instinct, I think that says, in Q3. That's some Hydra. Georges, Vettel crack under pressure, so bad. It's only Q1. You have to remember that, as Blessed Dube said, only Q1. Q3 is where he's got to perform. This is what Sirotkin did, and he got too wide onto the Astro and spun the car. Pushing too hard was Sergei Sirotkin. When you try your best but you don't succeed. I'm guessing you're trying to say best and not say but. Hallam 899. How do you think F1 would be like if Eddie Irvine won the championship when he was second that year? Well, it was announced, I think, before he ended that season second. I think it was announced that he was leaving Ferrari, so it wouldn't have had really any effect on F1 if he had won the title. E7 suspect, Mercedes are just the better team, simple as that. I feel like Ferrari don't double check things. Maybe it's arrogance or something. I completely understand your point, and I agree. Mercedes, when it comes to actually getting the results, are head and shoulders better than Ferrari. No doubt about it. And I think you're right there about Ferrari when it comes to arrogance. They've had this for a few years now. It's like they expect to be fastest or expect to win races, and they don't do the little things that you need to do that take you towards championships. They don't do those little things. They don't cover those minor details like Mercedes and Hamilton do. So yeah, Ferrari I do think can sometimes be a bit arrogant. But yeah, maybe that's cost them the championship this season. We'll have to analyse that further once we get to the end of 2018. Yep, as Ben McCarthy says, like forget a spark plug. That's a great example. Brandon, what are the results so far? I'll try and post them on the screen now of the results of Q1. But Brendan Hartley, Fernando Alonso, Sergei Sirotkin, Stoffel Van Dorn and Lance Stroll were knocked out in Q1. But I'll try in a minute and find an actual graphic for Q1 and the results that happened, so all of you guys know what happened. As Q2 is going to start in about, I'd say, 2 minutes. 2 minutes time until Q2 starts. Simon Cragland, Hartley has been so poor this weekend. He hasn't been as poor as he has been at other races, but yeah, he has been poor. No doubt about that. Mike Post, what do you think of the Toro Rosso engine updates? Very good from the sounds of it. And if it works out for Honda's home race next weekend in Suzuka, then I think Toro Rosso are on for a strong points finish. Just looking at the chat now to see if I've missed any comments, just to make sure I fit all the comments into this stream. Georges, what about Grosjean in Q1? He finished up in 8th, I think. So he is safely in to Q2. Aaron Chin, again, Van Dorn gets out-qualified by Alonso. I don't understand why there is this expectation that Van Dorn... I'm not saying that you're, expecting him to be out-qualifying Alonso, but I'm talking about other people that are saying, oh, Van Dorn has done poor compared to Fernando when it comes to qualifying. Fernando Alonso is still one of the best on the grid. Van Dorn, for me, should not be expected to out-qualify Fernando Alonso. Every driver bar 2 maybe on the grid probably can't do it over a season. So I don't understand why Van Dorn should have that pressure on him. So, you know, it's true. Again, out-qualified by Alonso, but that's not really a big deal for me. He's not expected for me to out-qualify one of the best drivers on the grid. Do you think Honda will be better than Renault next season? That's from Halam899. I don't want to jump the gun because they could do something similar Honda to 2017 and fall back again. But if they continue their progress, yes, I think they will be. It won't be a massive difference between Honda and Renault. It'll still be close, but I think Honda will be better than Renault next season if they continue the progress. Happy pre-race day. That's on WWYD78. Happy pre-race day or qualifying day to you. Beacon F1 Vettel. I don't know what to mine. I'll mine it anyway. I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Ferrari Mercedes on Ultrasofts. Yes, they are, as Q2, by the way, has started. I'll try and get an image on the screen right now of the results of Q1. Right, I found it. I'll just post it up now for you guys. And then you will know what's happened in Q1. By the way, no one has set a lap yet in Q2. It's only just started. So don't worry, you're not missing out on anything right now. But the two Ferraris and two Mercedes are on Ultrasoft tyres. Here are the results of Q1. Brendan Hartley, Fernando Alonso, Sergei Sorokin, Stoffel Van Dorn and Lance Stroll are out of qualifying in Q1. Not really a surprise. I probably could have predicted at least 4 of those to go out. So again, not a surprise at all that those drivers went out. Daniel, I can't see your second name, but I think it's Daniel, says, what do you think about the changes Raikkonen can bring to Sauber? What he will bring to Sauber is experience, which is very important for a midfield team. And because he is very good at, say, testing, that kind of area, I think he's going to bring a lot of good data for Sauber in terms of testing new parts. Kimi's very good when it comes to, you know, testing new parts and gathering the data. Kimi is very good at that. As Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton are on their laps right now on the Ultrasoft tyre. Niblo, great to see him in the chat, of course, my podcast guest as always. No need for Red Bull to do Q2, that's what he just said. I agree. They don't need to. I don't think they will either. Lewis Hamilton, by the way, has set the fastest first sector. Bless you, Alonso has been in it for about 15 plus years. Van Dorn wouldn't dream of matching him given that crappy car. For me, he was in a no-win situation. Yeah, I agree. You cannot expect Van Dorn in that car to out-qualify Fernando Alonso. It's so unrealistic. I don't understand why people actually think he needs to. Maybe McLaren should actually build a better car. But anyway, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are still on their laps. Valtteri Bottas does a 1:32.7 on the Ultrasoft tyres. What will Hamilton do on his Ultrasofts? Here he comes now. Got a bit wide on the exit curve of the penultimate corner. But Lewis Hamilton does a 1:32.5 and goes fastest. Kimi Raikkonen is 0.3 off in the middle sector. Sebastian Vettel just over 1/10 off. Raikkonen and Vettel also on the Ultrasoft tyres. Here comes Kimi Raikkonen to the penultimate corner. And now comes to the final corner. Where will Kimi go? He goes third, about half a second off the pace. Where will Vettel go? Sebastian Vettel also half a second off the pace and in third. Ferrari just don't have the pace to get pole. I don't see it. They are consistently at least half a second off the pace. By the way, thank you to the 103 people watching live. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel either on the bottom right of the screen. You can click subscribe there. Click on my channel name or click on the link in the description that goes to my channel page. like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video and what you think or thought, if you're watching this after, of qualifying. There's a link below, hopefully, to my Discord server as well. You can join that, and as well follow me on Twitter, link below, and don't forget to check out my website, chazerhd.com, to keep up to date with me and what I'm doing currently on social media. As Marcus Ericsson has started his lap, I'll wait for F1 to complete a lap until I read out the order so far in Q2. Ben McCarthy, 0.02 between the two Ferraris. No, it's... Yeah, it is. You're right, it is. The Ferraris look close, but they're nowhere near the Mercedes cars. Nowhere near. As Marcus Ericsson is coming through the mid part of the lap. Sauber are looking good. As Ericsson has a bit of traffic coming up on this lap. I hope that doesn't affect him. Yeah, I think the Discord link, I don't think I've put it. So, I think the link is missing. So, hopefully, I think Niblo just said he'll put the link in the chat. So, once he puts it, make sure to follow that link. As Marcus Ericsson now coming through to the penultimate corner. He now goes through the final corner. Marcus Ericsson, where can he go with this lap? He goes 6th. About 3/10 off Esteban Ocon, who is currently in P5. Charles Leclerc goes P5 and is under a second off the Mercedes cars. I know Leclerc's on the Hypersoft, but still that is very, very good. Sergio Perez has just gone up to 7th. Ocon is coming into pit. We'll wait for Grosjean, Magnussen, and the two Renaults to set a lap as well. I don't think the Red Bulls or Pierre Gasly will set a lap. I wouldn't be surprised if they came out, but I don't think they will. No, Pierre Gasly, I don't think he's coming out. And neither is the two Red Bulls. So, the two Red Bulls and Pierre Gasly are not coming out. So, there's only 2 positions up for grabs. Or there's only 2 positions left for drivers to be knocked out, with the drivers that are actually going to be doing laps at the end of Q2. I think that's Musty says, how can I watch qualifying? I'm not sure how. Maybe you have to find a link online or either on TV. I'm not sure where you can though. Obviously I can't show it here because my channel would be struck down very quickly, so I'm not going to take that risk. Hallam899, lol, the Ferraris are half a second off. They don't have the pace. They don't have the pace. I don't see how they can possibly get pole from here. They're going to need some luck. As Magnussen runs a bit wide at the penultimate corner, but comes across the line and goes P7. Not a bad lap. And Romain Grosjean comes through and goes 6th. So Haas are looking good. So, So Hamilton is fastest on the ultra-soft tyre, then Bottas is 2nd on the ultra-soft tyre, and then 3rd is Vettel and 4th is Raikkonen, both Ferraris on ultra-softs as well. And then on the hypersoft is Leclerc in P5. Amazing. No wonder he will be driving for the Scuderia in 2019. And then it's Grosjean 6th, Ocon 7th, Magnussen 8th, Perez 9th and Ericsson 10th. And then in the drop zone is Verstappen, Ricciardo, Gasly, Sainz and Hülkenberg, but Verstappen, Ricciardo and Gasly will not be taking part further in qualifying because they have engine penalties for tomorrow's race. Renault, though, they should be coming out for a lap because they don't have penalties, or at least I didn't hear of any. So they should be coming out for a lap very soon, as they have not set a competitive, or haven't set a lap time at all in qualifying. Annette, are we in Q1? Nope, we are not in Q1. We're in Q2. The results on the screen right now are the results of Q1, which ended about 15 minutes ago, I'd say. So we're currently in Q2. I will post the results of Q2 once, of course, the session ends. Ben McCarthy, they're saving tyres, I think. Ferrari and Mercedes are definitely saving tyres. They need to, because the Hypersoft is wearing, I think, a bit more than they thought it would. Annette just joined the chat. Hopefully you can subscribe as well. We do this every race weekend, so if you want to subscribe, please do so, either on the bottom right of the screen or click on my channel name and do it there. Halam899, Vettel needs to be careful to be the #1 driver in 2020. As we all know, he will bottle it in 2019. Let's wait first. Let's wait, because I don't like to jump the gun on certain things. So let's wait first. Thanks to Annette for subscribing, as we are now 4 minutes away from the end of Q2. Thanks as well to the 173 people watching live. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. Again, either on the bottom right of the screen or click on my channel name that goes to my channel page and subscribe there. Like this video, comment down below. Don't forget to join our Discord server. Hopefully, Niblo, if you're listening, because I have not included a link, hopefully you can try and post one in the chat for people to join. Sorry about that, guys, but I think I forgot to post the link, which is very annoying. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with the channel. And also, don't forget to check out my website, chazerhd.com, to keep up to date with me. Niblo says, I couldn't send a link, not allowing me to. That's a shame. That's a shame. Sorry, guys. For the race watch-along day for tomorrow, I will make sure to get that fixed so you guys can join the server. As... Are the Renaults coming out onto the track or not? I think they are. I think they're going for just one run. Are they? Oh, no. Hulkenberg. I don't think Hulkenberg's coming out on the track. Carlos Sainz, though. No. So the two Renaults are out of qualifying. So basically, guys, Q2 is over. Because Verstappen, Ricciardo, Gasly, Sainz and Hulkenberg, all of them are not going to be doing lap times. And they're all in the drop zone. So basically, Q2 is over. Kevin Magnussen and Marcus Ericsson are out on the track, but I don't understand why, because they're not going to get eliminated. So, by the way, as well, both Saubers into Q3. Great job. That is the first time they've gone to Q3, I think, with both cars since 2015, I think, or maybe 2013. Amazing job. Amazing. This is like the quali for the first two races in 2016. Yeah, I see what you mean in terms of it being decided in the first laps of the qualify in Q1, Q2, and Q3. Niblo's saying, it won't allow me to post a web address link in the chat. No problem. I'll just have to fix that for tomorrow. No problem. Ronan Brady is just responding to Niblo there. Daniel says, no, I think they were both in Q3 once this year. I don't think they will. Sorry, I don't think they were. I don't think they were. I think Leclerc's been in Q3, what, 5 or 6 times? I can't remember both cars getting into Q3. If you can prove me wrong on that, then post it in the chat. But I don't think they've done it in 2018. I think the last time they did it was either 2015 or 2013. But of course, I might be wrong on that. Just looking at the chat to make sure I include all you guys' comments. As ever, thanks for posting your comments. Great to do this as always. Hydra, give me those 1,000 subs. By the way, that's another thing to mention. We are very close to 1,000 subscribers. So hopefully for the 200 people watching live, we can get towards 1,000 subs. So hopefully, yeah, by the end of this race weekend, we can get towards that. So if you want to help me out and get into 1,000 subs, then please go ahead and subscribe. Ian McKinnon, hey, I made it. Thanks for coming along. I know that you tweeted me yesterday saying you would, so thank God you have joined for the qualifying watch along. We are in Q2. Q3 is coming up very soon. Simon Cragland, I'm really tired of they don't bring the super soft tyre but softs instead. They're trying to do that to mix up the tyres to try and create something interesting, but in real fact, I don't think it does bring interesting strategy to the play. Ronan Brady, the Hulk and Esteban Gutierrez got Q3 in Japan in 2013. Yeah, I think that was the last time they did it. It was I know it was definitely 2013 where they got a Q3 with both cars. But I wasn't sure about 2015. As Lewis Hamilton, by the way, is setting fastest sectors, but is on the Hypersoft, and I don't think is going to set this lap. I think he'll back off towards the end. Daniel, never mind, you're right. I think you were right. This is the first time they were both in Q3. I think I am. Leclerc, though, has been in Q3, what, 5 or 6 times. So they're not unfamiliar with Q3, at least, with one of their cars. As Hamilton backs off, Vettel pits. So that is the end of Q2. So the people being eliminated, all of them not setting a lap time, is Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg. I assume that the 2 Renaults alongside the 2 Red Bulls and the Toro Rossos and Fernando Alonso will be taking engine penalties for the Grand Prix tomorrow. So into Q3 is Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel, Raikkonen, Leclerc, Grosjean, Ocon, Magnussen, Perez and Ericsson. The 2 Mercedes and the 2 Ferraris went through on ultra soft tyres. So Q3 should be getting underway, I'd say, in about 5 minutes' time. To the 200 people watching live, who are you going with for pole position? Do you think it will be Lewis Hamilton? Do you think Valtteri Bottas can get pole? Or do you think by some shock at this point, Ferrari can get pole? What are you going with for pole position? Ben McCarthy, that was intense. Oh my God. Yeah, that was a horrible Q2. That was the worst Q2 of the season by a mile. So uncompetitive. Niblo is going for Lewis Hamilton on pole position. Not a massive surprise. Ronan Brady, Hamilton will get it easily, as Bottas won't be any competition. Kenny says Lewis Hamilton for pole. Annette, sadly Lewis, but I wish there was more variety. We all do, but you know, this is the way it is. Can't do anything about it, unfortunately. Sums up this track though. That's from Ronan Brady. Yep. Bottas for pole. Someone in the chat just said Bottas for pole. Vettel almost needs it, to be honest. That's from Ian McKinnon. He doesn't. He needs. It's difficult to say. I think for his confidence, he needs pole position. But we do have to remember that because you get a great slipstream and run down to turn 2 in the race, you don't necessarily need pole position to win here. For example, look at Valtteri Bottas last year. Started 3rd, rocketed into 1st by turn 2 and won the race because of his start. So I don't think for the race pole is massively important, but I think for Vettel's confidence, pole is important. Let's hope Bottas can put up a fight to Hamilton. That's from Niblo again. Ursen says Hamilton 1st and Bottas in 2nd. Okay. Why are Ferrari so bad? It's like they gave up. Well, of course they haven't gave up, but I just think they're so unconfident and demotivated from the results, the poor results they've had, which they've contributed to, that they don't have that motivation to go and win the title anymore. And I just don't think, because of that, they're going to be as quick as we thought they would be at these races a few weeks ago. They're just lacking severely in confidence and motivation. Clear to see that, to be honest. Just look at Sebastian Vettel's face after Singapore. And, well, look at what Vettel's going to look like after qualifying. He won't look happy at all. Hydra, if Vettel gets second place, he can slipstream. Come on. If he can, again, but it depends on the start. Because if he gets a bad start, then he's got, you know, his teammate, Valtteri Bottas. Presumably Bottas will be behind. And other cars like the Saubers and the Force Indias, that will slipstream him and try to pass him into turn 2. So even if he does get a front row start, he still needs to get a good start to get a run down to turn 2. Because if you get a bad start, you're going to be massively under threat till about, or you're going to be massively under threat under, what, 3 or 4 cars at least. Just looking at the chat, I think it's Harith Zach. I might have mispronounced that. Sorry if I have. If Vettel gets second, he has to get a good start from his front grid slot. Pretty much echoing what I just said. Absolutely. Raghav Gupta, I say a Red Bull overtake a Ferrari tomorrow. It would definitely have to be exciting, at least, for that to happen. I don't see it happening. But of course I could be wrong. Luke Huber says Hamilton will win this year. I think he will. I think he will as well. I think these last few races has won Hamilton the title. By the way, when it comes to what I'm currently displaying on the screen, I'm just waiting for a graphic for the results in Q2 to come up, and then I'll post it on the screen as soon as possible. It should be coming in the next couple of minutes. So I'll show you guys what it finished like in Q2. Hydra, Vettel will go on the grass on the last corner of his last flying lap, I'm sure. It's a very tempting, well, I wouldn't say tempting, but it's a thing that you're likely to do if you're pushing way too hard into that final corner. It's very likely to do that. Hamilton was quickest in Q2. Yep, he was very quick as well. He is looking good. Ben McCarthy, when will the next part of your 2012 season review go up? Great question. The next part will be after the Japanese Grand Prix on the 11th of October. So that is, what, 4 days after the race in Suzuka. Once we get, you know, this race and Suzuka out the way, then the next part of that will be out in between Suzuka and Kota. Just look at, do you think Vettel fears Leclerc? I think he's a bit concerned, but I wouldn't say he is, I wouldn't say he's scared or he fears him. I wouldn't say that, but I think he's a bit concerned by his pace. That, you know, the pace that Leclerc has. I think he's definitely concerned. And he has every right to be. Leclerc has been super quick for Sauber in 2018. Still waiting for a Q2 classification to come up, as Q3 is underway. The 2 Mercedes and the 2 Ferraris are out on the track. Guys in the chat right now, who are you going with for pole? Put it in the chat right now. And I will make sure to read as many out as I can before we find out. Right, I now have the classification of Q2. Just post on the screen now. You guys, I'm sure will know, if you've been watching for the last few minutes, who actually went out in Q2. It was Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg. None of them set a lap time. Very disappointing. Q2 in terms of entertainment. Oh, I'm trying to get this graphic up, guys, but it's a bit difficult. So yeah, the 2 Mercedes and the 2 Ferraris are trying to get round to start their laps. As Lewis Hamilton is now coming into the final sector. Will Lewis Hamilton get pole? I think he will, but you never know in F1. Anything can happen in these qualifying sessions. Just trying to get this thing on the screen for you guys, but it's proving a bit difficult. As Valtteri Bottas now starts his lap. And Lewis Hamilton starts his lap as well. So here we go. The first runs of Q3. Who is going to get pole? Right, here is, I believe. There you go. Sorry that it took a bit longer than usual, but there you go, the Q2 classification. So Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg were knocked out. And the top 10, Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel, Raikkonen, Leclerc, Grosjean, Ocon, Magnussen, Perez and Marcus Ericsson. Right, here we go for Q3. Here we go. So Valtteri Bottas has come through the first sector, so has Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton has done a fastest first sector. And we're on board with him right now. He is looking very fast in the Mercedes. Valtteri Bottas does a 104.7 for the middle sector. What does Lewis Hamilton do? Does he go faster? Oh, is he faster? No, he's not. He did not set a faster middle sector, but he might be faster overall at the end of the lap. So here comes Valtteri Bottas across the line and does a 1 minute 31.5. What a lap by Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton, what will he do? He's 0.04 of a second slower in second place. Kimi Raikkonen 0.75 of a second off in third. Bottas is on pole by 0.04 of a second. Great lap from Bottas, a 1:31.5 and a new track record. And now Vettel will come through the final corner. Where does he go? He goes third and is quite clearly 0.6 of a second behind. Vettel and Ferrari have no chance of pole position. It's Mercedes on the front row right now, and it's going to be Mercedes on the front row for sure. Bottas only just ahead of Hamilton, but that is only the first run in Q3. Hamilton still has a chance to out-qualify Bottas in the second run in Q3. Yep, rip Ferrari indeed. They are way off the pace. Over half a second off Mercedes. Ferrari are nowhere near Mercedes. Ben McCarthy, I said, Bottas first, Hamilton second before Q3. Yep, a lot of people kind of, I think shocked that Bottas, so far at least, is on pole position. John says, good thing Ferrari have a good race strategy. I don't know if that's a joke or not, but well, they don't normally. Ian McKinnon, we're back to Australian Grand Prix qualifying again. Indeed, Mercedes way clear of the field. I think this is Basketball ZH. Guys, I just came here. Which car is faster on this grid? Right now, after the first run in Q3, it is Valtteri Bottas on pole from Lewis Hamilton second. Sebastian Vettel third. Raikkonen fourth. Ocon fifth. Leclerc sixth. Magnussen seventh. And then Perez eighth. Grosjean ninth. And Ericsson in 10th. Yes, John. I knew you were joking. Don't worry. Ocon 0.06 of a second ahead of Leclerc. That's what Ben McCarthy just said. And yes, he is. Wow, very close at the front of the midfield. Who will come out on top there? We'll have to see. Hamilton will come back. That's from a net. I think he will. I still think Hamilton will get pole because Hamilton at the end of Q3 is a master when it comes to getting that final lap, you know, done and nailing that final lap in terms of speed. Hamilton should have pole. He was 0.3 slower than Bottas, middle sector, poor exit onto the second DRS straight. That's from Niblo. I didn't quite see Hamilton's lap properly when it came to that point of the lap, but if that is the case, then that definitely cost him the time that would put him on provisional pole position. Someone wishing for a Vettel pole in the chat. Annette, I'm not a Hamilton fan. I just think he will come back. I understand. I agree as well. Hamilton should fight back and get pole. He has the speed, as we all know. Ian McKinnon, how much time does Leclerc add to Sauber to be only just best of the rest? I'm not sure an exact amount of time I can give on that, but I think Leclerc gives Sauber half a second extra. If they had maybe Ericsson and, I don't know, Sorokin at Sauber, I don't think Sauber would have had many points finishes in 2018. But with Leclerc in that car, it gives them a lot more pace than they actually have. Hello to Tamzid, who is here for the end of Q3. One final run to go. Who is going to take pole? Put in the chat right now. By the way, again, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe either on the bottom right of the screen or click on my channel name and subscribe that way. Like this video and comment down below. Ben McCarthy, please don't be Austria 2002 tomorrow. I don't think it will be. I don't think Mercedes will need, or Ferrari will need to resort to that kind of tactic. Beacon F1, Leclerc will get P5. Tonka Toy Truck, I can't believe Ferrari is a second back. Well, they're not a second back, but yeah, they are quite a bit off Mercedes. Not good enough at all, I think. They should be. If Ferrari are going to end up with both cars behind the two Mercedes, they still should be, at most, a quarter of a second behind. Not 6 and 7 tenths of a second. They should not be. No way. As I think the Mercedes of, I think this is Valtteri Bottas coming through to the final sector. Tamzid, I hope it won't be boring one-stop race. I just want interesting race. We all do. But let's see what happens at the end of Q3. This might be, guys, the most exciting part of the weekend. So get ready for what could be a very exciting end to qualifying. It's between, I think, Bottas and Hamilton for pole position. Scuderia D, Lewis will get pole. Brandon, both Red Bulls out yet because they have engine penalties and there's no point competing further in qualifying. So they're going to be starting at the back anyway, even if they competed in Q3. But Valtteri Bottas has started his lap. Here we go. Bottas into turn 2, looking very good. Hamilton has just started his lap. Bottas comes through the very fast and elongated turn 3. Hamilton has just come through turn 2. RIP Red Bull Racing. Yeah, the reliability is not looking good right now, and Renault are not producing good enough engines. Bottas has gone a tenth faster in the first sector. Hamilton goes 3 tenths faster in the first sector. Will Hamilton take pole? Oh, Hamilton's ran too wide. I think that's turn... Is that turn 10, I think? Or turn 8? I'm not quite sure. But Hamilton's ran massively wide. Hamilton's not going to get pole. Bottas is going even faster. And is still a tenth up on his pole position time so far. Here comes Valtteri Bottas. through the chicane. Yep, Hamilton, it's all over for Lewis Hamilton. Kimi Raikkonen, though, could somehow get pole position. He is only half a tenth off Bottas through the first two sectors. Here comes Valtteri Bottas. And a 1:31.3, I think it is. Yes, it is. Valtteri Bottas surely is on pole position for the 2018 Russian Grand Prix. Here comes Kimi Raikkonen. Oh, he loses it massively in the final corner. Clumped the inside of the curb and ends up in P4. Sebastian Vettel, what can he do? Comes through the final corner. Where will he end up? It's going to be P3. And it is half a second off. So, Valtteri Bottas takes pole position from Lewis Hamilton second. Yes, it is a track record, for, just to answer Tams's question there. Bottas on pole, Hamilton second, Vettel third, Raikkonen fourth, Kevin Magnussen in P5, Esteban Ocon is sixth. Just seeing a replay of Hamilton. Oh, that was a costly mistake at turn 7. Collecting oversteer. Carried way too much speed in by the looks of it. And that caused his issues. So Magnussen 5th, Ocon 6th, Leclerc in P7, Perez 8th, Grosjean 9th, and Marcus Ericsson in P10. Well deserved by Bottas. Great job. Hopefully he can have a good Grand Prix tomorrow. Tams, did Bottas win again? Maybe. He set himself up well for that race win if he does get it. Harith Zach, congrats Bottas. Get a good start tomorrow. Be nice to see him do well tomorrow. Lewis Hamilton, I wouldn't say is mad or really, you know, distraught, but he does look a bit disappointed with his mistake. As Annette says there, if Mercedes allow it, that's very true. Mercedes might allow or tell Valtteri Bottas to move over for Lewis Hamilton. I will make sure to post the top 3 order in a moment. Tamzid, how many races left this season? If you include tomorrow, 6. Hydra, going to go to the F1 game, destroy Hamilton in qualifying for revenge. Just looking at some more comments. Grosjean 9th, that's on Tonka Toy Truck. Yes, he was, but nowhere near Kevin Magnussen, who ended up in P5. Great lap. Great lap. Good to see Magnussen getting back on it, because he's not been massively on it, I would say, for the last couple races. So great to see there. But Valtteri Bottas shakes the hands of the engineers that work on his car, as he is now on pole position. Simon Cragland, a great job, Kevin. Absolutely. Go K-Mag. Leclerc P7. Great performance. Charles Leclerc deserves all the plaudits for his performance. Was Ocon 6th? That's from Annette. Yes, he was. Further proof that he should be on the grid for 2019. Simon Cragland. Hamilton could have got pole. If he didn't make mistakes, he would have, but he didn't deserve pole because he made too many mistakes in Q3. And Valtteri Bottas produced when it mattered. Bye to Hydra. Thanks for being a part of the qualifying watch-along. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to do so for the race watch-along tomorrow. As Valtteri Bottas is now being interviewed by Paul di Resta on the grid. I told you. Right, I'll try and find... I think I've got it now. Yep, here we go. I've got the full classification of qualifying. I'm going to post it on the screen right about now. Let me just get it up for you guys. So if you're just joining, you know what the official result of qualifying is. So, let me just try and get this up a minute. If you just joined, comment what you think about qualifying. What do you think of qualifying? What do you think of Valtteri Bottas getting pole position. Here you go. Here is the official classification of qualifying. Valtteri Bottas on pole position from Lewis Hamilton second and Vettel third, Raikkonen fourth, Magnussen fifth, Ocon sixth, Leclerc seventh, Perez eighth, Grosjean ninth and Ericsson 10th, and then Verstappen, Ricciardo, Gasly, Sainz and Hulkenberg were knocked out in Q2, but Verstappen, Ricciardo and Gasly will start at the back with engine penalties and probably Renault as well because they didn't do a lap in Q2, and then knocked out in Q1 Brendan Hartley, Fernando Alonso, Sergei Sorokin, Stoffel Van Dorn and Lance Stroll. That is qualifying for the Russian Grand Prix. If you're new to these watch-alongs, guys, I will be staying on for another half an hour to react with you guys to what has happened in qualifying. So if you want to comment about what has happened, then please do so in the next half an hour. Goodbye to John and to Scuderia D. Thanks for coming along as always. And to WWYD78 if he's leaving. And also Tamzid. Thanks for coming along. Tonka Toy Truck. Bottas really likes this track. He does. This is one of his best tracks on the calendar. Not a massive surprise that he was on pole. He is very, very good here. JB, I always believe Bottas would get pole. And I've just remembered, you did say Bottas would get pole. Mark my words. And you're absolutely correct. Valtteri Bottas got pole. So great. Great prediction there by you. Goodbye to Niblo. Thanks for coming along, as always, for the watch-along. Aaron Chin, maybe Vettel can do what Bottas did last year. That has to be his strategy going down to turn 2. To get a run on the two Mercedes and somehow get into the lead. I don't know how he can, though. Goodbye to Brandon. Thanks again for coming along. If anyone has any thoughts about what's happened in qualifying, Valtteri Bottas on pole, Hamilton second, Vettel third. What do you think of what has happened in qualifying? Put in the chat right now. Gina, I do think Vettel has a chance. He definitely does. If he does get that great run down to turn 2 and gets down the inside of both Mercedes, then he does have a good chance of victory. But because of the pace difference, even if he does get ahead, he will be massively under pressure for that win. JB, I actually got rid of Verstappen from my fantasy team to get him Bottas. Great selection there. Absolutely paying off for you. Tonka Toy Truck, looks like the season is over for Ferrari. Vettel needed to be first or second. Let's wait until the race tomorrow. Of course, we don't know what is going to happen. If Hamilton wins and Bottas is second with Vettel third, then I will probably say that the title is 100% over. But we need to see what happens tomorrow. We don't know. We just don't know. Anything can happen. Great time. Go Hamilton. Francisco says, what if they go into each other like in Italy? Well, we'll need to see who comes out the better if that happens. Tonka Toy Truck, I just made Mercedes my F1 Fantasy League team. That's a smart thing to do because Ferrari are not good at actually getting the results that they probably should do. Raikkonen and Vettel might overtake Hamilton at the start if they get a good run. Yep, that is entirely possible. I think that's Nick Dubbin says, do you think the race will be a good race or a good first lap? I think we'll get a good first lap, but I don't think we'll get a good race at all. I think what happens on the first lap will decide what happens in the race. JB, who's in your fantasy team, Chaz? I haven't checked it for quite a few weeks, but I think in my fantasy team is... I think I've got Ferrari as my team, so obviously I'm not doing well in our fantasy league. I think as drivers I have Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Alonso, and a couple others. I can't remember exactly, but I think those 3 drivers are in my team. But again, I haven't checked in quite a few weeks. Mercedes been making great starts lately. I wouldn't say great starts, but not as bad as it was, say, around Silverstone. They were not doing well with the starts around that time of the season. Right, I'm going to try and make sure I include everyone's comments before I end this stream. Francisco says, Sauber, let's go get some points. Hopefully they do, and catch Toro Rosso for P8 in the Constructors. Annette, Lance Stroll, P20, Ocon 6th, says it all. You do have to remember, even though I criticise Stroll a lot, he is in a very bad car. But if you look at the lap times down the screen, Lance Stroll is half a second behind Van Dorn and almost a second behind his teammate. I think that says more than where Ocon is, to be honest. Lance Stroll, just not good enough, in my opinion, for the level of F1. JB, massive surprise from K-Mag. Great effort. Great effort from K-Mag. That was probably his best qualifying since Hockenheim, I think. That was the last time that he qualified high up and was impressive. So good job by K-Mag. Billy Lake, I think that says, reliability may come into play. It could. If Hamilton retires tomorrow and Vettel finishes second or wins the race, then the title chances for Vettel are a lot higher than it would be if it was the other way round, or if Hamilton wins and Vettel finishes second or third in tomorrow's race in Sochi. Andrew Drury feels like 2015. Took a toy truck. K-Mag is my turbo driver. He's talking to JB there. I know that K-Mag is your turbo driver because I remember viewing your fantasy team when we were doing the fantasy results. Rosenborg, David, that hurt, but congratulations to Bottas. Absolutely. Well done to Bottas. You know, beating Lewis Hamilton is very hard in the first place. And to do it after what has been a tough last few races, good job. Real good job. Gina, can you believe Ocon is without a seat? I still can't get over it. I can't believe it, but it's got to the point now with the rumours about where he will be for 2019. It's got to the point where I'm expecting it to happen. I don't see how Ocon will be in F1 next year. Not because he's bad, but because a certain driver has a lot of money. I'll leave it at that. Spider Monkey, Chazza, who is better, Ocon or Magnussen? For me, is Ocon. Ocon is the better driver. Annette says, the thing is in all sports is winning gives you confidence and confidence gives you wins. Absolutely. That's what Vettel needs right now, is race wins. JB, Ocon is easily the better Force India at the moment. It still baffles me that Perez is more likely to get that Force India. It is so sad. So sad. Ocon clearly deserves to be at Force India for 2019. Clearly deserves it. Really does. Andrew Drury, not the best qualifying session of the year, but one of the weirdest, definitely. After Q2, yeah, I agree. It was quite strange what actually happened. No real competitiveness in Q2. I don't really know what to say. Ben McCarthy, but then again, if Stroll didn't have any money, Force India wouldn't be a team and Ocon would be out of seat anyway. I see your point, but Lawrence Stroll was not the only person trying to buy that team. You also have the Mazepin family. He has a lot of money. Nikita Mazepin's dad. You have... there's another person, I think a Russian business person or it might be from the Ukraine, somewhere like that, that was trying to buy the team. So, yes, he did save the team, but there were others that could have saved the team as well. So it's not like he was, the only one trying to save the team. QT was boring. Yep, it was. That's from JB. Very boring, non-existent Q2, as far as I'm concerned. Just trying to make sure I cover all of your questions and comments before I go. I'll probably come off in about 15 minutes or 10 minutes. Thanks again for the people that have come along to watch this qualifying watch along. Has been great as always. Ben McCarthy and that consortium is getting sued, I believe. Yeah, it's getting sued by I think it's Nikita Mazepin's dad, who was trying to buy the team. So again, Lawrence Stroll was not the only one trying to save the team. Joshua says or asks, can Ferrari win next year? Of course they can, if they have a fast enough car. And if they stop bottling results, they should win the title. But if they keep bottling results, I don't see how they can win titles going forward. It's Mercedes to lose for the rest of 2018. And if Ferrari don't have a faster car, I'd have to make Mercedes the favourites for 2019. Because Mercedes are way better at getting results than Ferrari are. So Valtteri is on pole. Yep, he is. Francisco, what happened with Renault? They I don't know what they were thinking really. They just decided not to go out for a run in Q2. There's nothing really to talk about with Renault. I'll try and find out why though they decided not to go out. Ben McCarthy, apart from Miami, if relevant, what will be the next new F1 track? It's hard to say. There has been talk of a track in Hanoi, in I believe that's Vietnam. If I'm wrong, correct me on that. I'm not, totally up to full knowledge when it comes to that part of the world, but I think that is one I've heard of that could be a potential host for a Grand Prix. I can't think of any others. So yeah, I'd probably say Hanoi. Tonka Toy Truck, thank you for all your hard work. Makes getting up early on the weekend totally worth it. Thanks for you coming along to these watch-alongs. It makes me really motivated to do these. So thanks for coming along. Gamer Ben, I am proud to be last in your fantasy league. Okay. Simon Cragland, I think for the sport it's disappointing to see Renault not running Q2. Yeah, it's not great, but it's only, it's only this weekend. This is not a usual occurrence. Thank God it's not a usual occurrence, because then, yeah, F1 would have a serious issue. Ben McCarthy, Copenhagen. Loads of sucking will occur. Mike K-Mag. Yeah, Copenhagen's another one, but I think the plans for that have been a bit derailed. I can't remember what it was, but I saw an article where it was something like chances of Copenhagen Grand Prix are now less because of some issue. I can't remember exactly, but I'll try and research into that. Just looking. Completely agreed. Your hard work, Chaz, is amazing. Thank you, JB. Thank you very, very much. Ivan Jones, Ferrari is so slow. Yes, they are. Considering their pace in the last few races. Wow, what a bad qualifying for Ferrari. JB, I wonder if Hulkenberg has sucked K-Man's balls yet. Oh my god. Right, just trying to make sure I cover everyone's comments, because there's been a lot of comments in today's chat. JB, who will partner Kvyat at Toro Rosso? I think either Verline or Hartley. Most likely Verline. After Helmut Marko's comments earlier, I think it will be Verline. Basically, a question was put to him, how can Brendan Hartley keep his seat for 2019? And Helmut Marko, responded and said, beat Gasly. He's not going to beat Gasly. So Hartley basically is out of a seat. So I think it will be Pascal Wehrlein alongside Kvyat. And I'm very excited for that if that does happen. Andrew Drury, it looks like it's going to be a wet weekend in Japan. I haven't checked the weather because I think you said that before. I haven't actually checked, but of course that part of the world can be, when it comes to the weather, a bit changeable. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Of course, we're still a week away, so the weather can change going forward. Tonka Toy Truck, the Hulk has taken to wearing. Well, I'm trying to see what he's saying there. The Hulk has taken to wearing depends in preparation for next year's racing against Ricciardo. When is Japan? 1 or 2 weeks. That's from Gamer Ben. It is next weekend. Of course, we will be live for the qualifying race watch along. Despite in the UK, it's going to be very early in the day. The qualifying watch along will be going live at 6 AM UK time. And for the race watch along, we'll be going live at 5 AM UK time. I am looking forward to that. Just looking. Yep, Japan is next week. Annette, a wet race would spice things up. It would. Wet races always tend to throw up an interesting order at the end of it all. Depends. Are old people diapers? I'm not sure what you're trying to say there. Spider Monkey, 40 more Chazza. I think you're referencing my subscribers. That is great. For the people watching right now, if you have not subscribed, please do. Again, either bottom right of the screen or click on my channel name to subscribe to the channel. We are very close to 1K. Nicholas Mendes, did qualifying already happen? Yes, it did. The results are currently on your screen right now. Those are the results. Valtteri Bottas on pole, from Lewis Hamilton second, Sebastian Vettel in third, Raikkonen fourth, and yep, the rest of the grid is right there on the screen. Suzuka should be even better in the wet. That's from Francisco. Jesus Christ, I will need to get up so early. That's in Gamer Ben. I'm not expecting, people who live in Europe or in the UK to get up early for that race, because it is quite hard to get up for. But if it's a good race and you get up for it, then you will be rewarded for sure. Make sure I can. Thanks to Nicholas Mendes for subscribing. Thank you very much for that. Simon Cragland, no race in Copenhagen. Unfortunately, I live in Denmark. That is unfortunate because there has never been, I believe, a race in Denmark. I don't think that has been. I think there's been a race in Sweden before in the early to mid 1970s, but never in Denmark. That's a shame. That is a shame. Right, I'm trying to read some more comments. By the way, guys, I will be coming off in about 5 minutes, so if you have any remaining questions or comments, put them in the chat in the next 5 minutes. Hard enough, folks. We watch it at odd hours in Australia. Yep, I know your pain. My podcast guest Niblo has to wake up at some extreme hours sometimes for F1 races. For example, the US and Mexican Grand Prix. Those are not good hours for Australians. So yeah, that's not good for you guys. But again, if you have to wake up so early for the race and it tends to be a good one, then at least you will be rewarded. Nicholas Mendes, do you do this all the time? Yes, I do. I do watch-alongs for the entire race weekend. For example, tomorrow at 11 UK time in the morning, I will be going live for the race watch along 1 full hour before the race starts, and then we'll be live, you know, with a 1 hour build up right through the race, and then we will be live 45 minutes after the race ends for a race reaction for about an hour. So yeah, that's what we do on a race weekend on the channel. And by the way, qualifying review will be out tomorrow at 8 AM UK time, about 4 hours before the race starts, just to let you guys know that. Annette, yep, US and Mexico are a test. If you love Formula 1, yep, it is very difficult. I understand your pain. Just looking in UK, we don't often get up early, stay up late. I prefer, you know, races like the US and Mexican Grand Prix where you have to stay up a bit later than having to wake up so early, because again, if you get a really boring race, it just feels like a waste of time, really. But of course, for Suzuka, good or bad, we will be live. So make sure you subscribe and come around for those videos. Right, I'll try and include a few more comments if I can see any. Oh, to mate says, do you think Valtteri has the biggest chance to win a race in 2018 after his pole position? Yeah. Well, yes and no. Because if Hamilton is right behind Bottas in the race, then Bottas will be told to move over for Lewis. I think Bottas's best chance of victory will probably be the last race in Abu Dhabi, because the championship should be over by then. And Bottas is very quick there, and Mercedes will allow Bottas to win that race, even if Hamilton is right behind. Annette Suzuka, is good if it's wet, absolutely. JB McLaren, Renault is a yoke. Is a yoke, what a yoke. Nicholas Mendes, who do you think will win the championship? I think it will be Lewis Hamilton. I've said that since the start of 2018, and I've stayed true to that prediction. And it looks like I'm going to be right. But I still want the title battle to go down to the final race. Even if Hamilton or Vettel wins, I don't really care who wins. As long as it goes down to the final race. Again, I don't care, but I don't think it will go down to the final race, unfortunately. Spider Monkey, I think there is going to be a huge crash. End of straight. I'm guessing you mean into turn 2. Normally, there has been some big crashes into turn 2. So, yeah, it is quite likely. Ronan Brady, who is your favourite technical director? I don't really have one, to be honest. I mean, what, the top ones are Adrian Newey, James Allison. Actually, I know who my favourite one is. James Key. I've always rated the guy. I've always sung his praises. That guy deserves a chance at a top team. Absolutely. The guy is very, very underrated. Has it ever rained in Russia? In a Russian Grand Prix, that's from Nicholas Mendes. No, it hasn't. Spider Monkey, Chazza, which team do you support? I don't support a team. I do have, you know, teams I like more than others, but I don't support any team or driver. My favourite team is probably Ferrari, closely followed by Force India. And then my favourite drivers, you know, Verstappen, Leclerc, Grosjean, Ocon, drivers like that. But again, I don't directly support a driver or team. I don't care at the end of the day who wins, as long as we get great racing. Who cares? Unless, of course, you're a fan of a team or a driver. JB, who's your favourite team boss? Mine is Vasseur. Watch his Grill the Grid and then you'll know why. My favourite team boss is probably Horner for Red Bull, because he's so honest and he just tells it like it is. He doesn't try and paint something to be better or worse than it actually is. He tells the truth, and he's very entertaining when he does so. So I'd have to say Christian Horner. When do you think Lewis will retire? That's Nicholas Mendes again. Probably 2021 or 2022, around that area. Chaza, Mazepin or Stroll. That's on Spider Monkey. I haven't seen much of Mazepin, so I'm going to say Stroll. But Mazepin isn't doing too bad in a GP3. So we'll see what Mazepin can do in the next couple of years. Daniel Dimov, is Ocon's F1 career over? Do you think he has a chance to maybe return in F1 after 2019? I think it depends what he does in 2019. If he goes to, say, IndyCar, but doesn't do well, because of how fast F1 moves as a sport, he might be without a seat for 2020. That's just the way F1 is. I don't know what the best thing for Ocon to do is next year, because it looks like he's not going to be on the grid. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. JB, I think Hamilton will retire at the end of his 2-year contract. That wouldn't be a surprise if he did so. Ronan Brady, do you think Renault are only focusing on 2019? I think they are now shifting focus onto 2019 because there is news that Renault at this Grand Prix have brought their last major upgrade of 2018 to this Grand Prix, and they're going to be using it from this race until Abu Dhabi. So I think Renault now have, in terms of big upgrades, have given up on 2018 and are now focusing on 2019, which is a very important season for Renault. Right, a couple more questions and comments and then I will come off. It's about time that I end this stream. It's been just over 2.5 hours, very long stream. Thanks again though to everyone who has come along. It has been a blast as always. Tonka Toy Truck, I think Lewis will continue to race until he loses again. Well, at this rate, that might be 4 or 5 years. We honestly don't know how long it could be. I think, I can't remember who just said about Lewis will retire at the end of his 2-year contract, but if Lewis gets to the end of that 2-year contract and he's close to Michael Schumacher's record of titles, I think he'll sign a new one to beat that record. I think he will. Annette, I'm off. It's been nice chatting to you all. I subscribed. Just a hint to other subscribers. Hit the notification bell, YouTube. Give more brownie points for the channel. Yep, as well, hit the notifications bell. Even though the notifications bell on YouTube is not that great, you don't always get notifications even if you hit it. So, yeah, but still, hit the notifications bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Thanks to Francisco for appreciating the good work. JB says it's great to see your channel has got a few regular fans who trying to speak who always turn up. It's down to your hard work and dedication. Yep, thank you very much for that. Bye to anyone who's leaving right now. Right, the final comment or question is from Spider Monkey. What about Force India, Chaz? Do you think they stop upgrading their car? I think they'll continue bringing upgrades until the end of 2018 because they want to beat McLaren in the Constructors and get close to Haas and Renault. So I think they'll keep developing until the end of 2018 and carry some momentum into 2019. But guys, thank you for the kind comments. Really does mean the world to me. But thank you guys for the qualifying watch along for the 2018 Russian Grand Prix. Has been great. Again, don't forget to subscribe either on the bottom right of the screen or click on my channel name or the link in the description that goes to my channel page to subscribe to the channel. Like this video and comment down below what you thought of this video and comment down below what did you think of qualifying with Valtteri Bottas on pole and Lewis Hamilton second, and disappointingly Sebastian Vettel in P3. And as well, guys, don't forget to follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with the channel and when I'm uploading and what I'm doing. And don't forget to check out shazahd.com, link below down in the description. Again, a great way to keep up to date with the channel. But guys, for tomorrow at 8 AM UK time, that's 4 hours before the race starts, will be the uploaded review of qualifying. And then at 10 past 11 UK time in the morning, that's 1 full hour before the race starts, I will be going live for the race watch along. And then at 2:30 PM UK time, that's about 45 minutes after the race ends, I will be going live again for the race reaction for the 2018 Russian Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys can join me for that, and I will see you all tomorrow morning.